Hi, it's Friday afternoon. We've made it to this part of the week. So I hope you guys have got your coffees ready, your cups of tea, whatever it is that needs to get you through this last hour or so. If you're in the UK, if you're like my guest this afternoon um, in America, then you've got a little bit longer to go. But there we go. I'm going to be talking in a minute to Robert and Jesse from Pas Musique, but that's after this.
I need to get going, Mel. See you later.
Seemed to be a little bit jolty there to me. I don't know whether you experienced that. Hi guys, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Now this is the first time that I've had a threesome on this show.
Wow. Well, there's a first time for everything.
Yeah, it is, because it's normally just me on this particular show. It's normally just me talking to one other person. So it's thank you for breaking tradition for me and having more people here than one. That's right. Wonderful. Did I pronounce the name of the band right, or the name of the group or project or whatever you want? What do you call it? Are you a project?
It's actually Pas Musique.
Pas Musique.
French for not music, basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can call it Pas or whatever you want. I mean, people, I don't know. As long as
I failed French, you see. I failed French, so that
exactly. But yeah, the concept is not music, basically, because well, it was originally started as more of experimental avant-garde kind of thing. And it was coined actually by Philippe Petit during the Avant-Garde Festival, because it used to be just PAS or Pas, and then Philippe Petit was like, "Oh, this is like Pas Musique, like not music," and I kind of liked that whole concept, so I stuck with it over the years, and also kind of made more sense for a name for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting name. So how do you go about making music that isn't music? There's a first question.
Well, it in the beginning it started, which is and I started this in like 1995, and then it kind of came together with other people, and I think around 2009 with John Worthley, and it was more the approach is kind of was basically just recording any sort of sounds and using a Tascam 4-track and just kind of overdubbing these sounds and kind of making soundscapes, right? So that's your kind of, I guess, approach to not music. Now, over the years, we've latched on to more beats these days, and we actually do kind of have songs. Usually it's like 50% kind of improvisation and 50% set. So on the new albums, which like the Phoenix and so forth. From there, you have more song structures, and also there's 4 members, solid members, and as before, we would have all these guests coming in and back and forth. It was kind of an open, kind of improvisational project, but we kind of did that thing, and now we're more focused on songs. And I know Jesse likes more song structures, so he can kind of latch on to things. So now it's kind of half and half. So it's actually more music than it is not music.
So it's now demi-Pas Musique.
Yes, but I always feel like I'm kind of in between this kind of abstract improvisational experimental world, and then the more kind of maybe post-rock kind of world, krautrock, commish music, and kind of thing like that. So kind of halfway in between, but that's what makes it fun, kind of experimenting with different styles and all that kind of thing.
I was going to ask then, Jesse, how Robert asked you to be part of this, because with musicians, asking musicians if they'd like to be part of making music, it's an obvious thing, isn't it, really? You sort of go, well, I'm doing this, I can see what you're doing there, I really like the kind of music that you're into. But for someone to go, would you like to come and not make music?
Well, that's pretty funny. They put it that way. When I first met Robert, and I hadn't been in my first bands yet. That wouldn't come till a couple years later. But I went to a couple of his shows, and I didn't understand what was going on. And so then
that's great.
So then he started putting me on to certain albums, and I'll never forget, like, one of the first ones that helped me understand. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I guess. But it was Soviet France. And it was the Robert, I can't remember the name of the album, but it was the building of the train station.
Oh, the decriminalization of country music. That's
Yeah.
A later one. Yeah.
So that sparked a feeling in me that I can only describe as when other people. I ended up going into metal bands after that, like, for a number of years. And when people would come to me and go, I don't understand what this experimental music is that you do. The only way I could describe it is it's not a listening thing. It's a feeling thing. That's the best way I can describe it. It evokes a certain feeling in you. Now, I guess selfishly, I have to bring a little of the listening to it because I'm not a great improvisational person. So when I told Robert what he said, do you want to join? I had done a number of things with his band over the years in the different iterations, the different names of it, but it was never a continual thing. It was just jumping in just for a show here and there. But when I finally joined, I was like, I need to write guitar parts because I can't improvise. So.
The funny thing, I think this was the first show that you ever played was when we went to DC for Sonic Circuits that time. So it was I believe it was 4 of us, and I think it was Amber and maybe even
Michael.
Dave. Michael. And so we did this half-hour set, and we usually do around 25 minutes, half hour, but it was about the 25 point, and I was thinking, okay, maybe we should start slowing this down. This was all improvised, but it was going good. And then all of a sudden at the end, Jesse hit like a guitar chord that just spiked through the roof, and it was just so funny. I just turned all the faders down after that, and that was the end of the show. And I was just like, looking back at this show, it works so well because, like, it was this really somber moment. And then you just hear this metal guitar, and it just woke everybody up. And then I was like, that's the time to shut it down. And I like, masters go down, and everybody was like, whoa, and then they clap. But and then Jesse, I think you were kind of half, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, that worked really well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But I mean, look, people understand and enjoy improv in other areas, don't they? I mean, improv comedy, for example. I've been involved in improv comedy in the past, but I've also written comedy.
Right
now, at the end of the day, it's 2 very, very different things. I mean, there's a difference between a comedy routine that has jokes built in, or there's a routine that leads up to a joke, as it were, and then just giving someone a packet of crisps or something and saying, right, make that funny. Now, in a similar way, if another way of trying to explain it to people and understanding it, it's a similar thing in a way, isn't it?
Sure, yeah, that's a great way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you kind of start with the mood, and then you kind of get into it, and then it goes somewhere, and then you kind of have to have a punchline, I guess, at the end. So yeah, I mean, I always think always every show you're doing, the first 5 minutes or so, you're kind of sorting things out, and then you kind of hopefully you kind of get everyone involved in it. I mean, even just when we're playing, it's like that. You set the mood, even for yourself or whoever's around you if you're doing it live. But then after that, you kind of take them on a journey, and then you kind of have to have some sort of ending. It's like that. So
Well, you know, listening to this, it kind of takes me back to when I was a youngster, really first getting into electronic music, and I used to read like Electronic Sounds magazine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and there'd be some great articles in there, and one that really stood out was, and I think I've told this story before on here, but I'll tell it again. Was these two guys who were just trying to get the sound of a watermelon as it fell from the top of a building and hit the ground, you know,
Yeah.
and just the different equipment that they used, and you know, trying to put microphones at different levels to get the noise at the different levels, and then recording it at those different levels. Loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely fun, that experimental edge. Sometimes I kind of miss that a little bit with what we're doing. But then, I mean, we'll do totally experimental kind of improv sets in between, the gigs that actually have songs. I remember I used to work a lot. I used to be obsessed with fishing rods and reels.
Yeah.
And so every reel really has a different sound. Now, if you get a good reel, they're not supposed to actually make sound, but you could get tons of bad reels that kind of you hear the ball bearings, and they sound gorgeous. Like really, if you put them through a pickup and stuff like that. And I think it was the first time we played Faust Avant Garde Festival in 2010. That's when I was into all that kind of thing. And so I brought my fishing rod and my clanky reel, and so I pretty much played it over the audience as I was like kind of look like I was reeling them in, and I had it hooked up to like 3 or 4 different contact microphones going through different effects pedals, and I had one dry, and it just kind of made the whole room sound like it was just like some sort of ocean or something. It was really fun. I mean, really fun stuff, and I like mixing that stuff too with like beats and stuff. I know a lot of people don't do that who do this type of experimental music, but I just love those two worlds coming together. It just makes it a lot more interesting on both ends, I think, when you're not going by those rules.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse? What sort of things have you played with in terms of getting sound?
I would say that I'm pretty boring in that sense, but I have certainly gotten deeper into my pedals where before I wouldn't have. I would have just used them for what they were for, but now I'm much more into really figuring out, say like harmonics and like kind of getting dirtier with them, using stuff like that where I otherwise wouldn't have. Also bringing out pedals that I just typically wouldn't have used. It was just pedals that I just never really felt were necessary in the past, where they're kind of fitting in here.
I mean, we used to have loads of fun with that at school.
Yeah.
It was like back in the day, we used to even be able to take home. Get this, guys. I'm going to make your mouth water now. We used to even be able to take home some of those old analog synths with the patch
Oh
pulls on.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you'd get a guitar pedal, for example, and you think, what happens if I put this synth through this bass pedal?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then put my vocal through it.
It becomes a sickness after a while. It
It
just
does, doesn't it?
you lose studio space. You keep buying these things, and then you're like I can never do this live because I'd have to bring the whole studio with me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing, like all of this stuff. It's like, when you're traveling around, and when you're this type of band, and your interest is in all these pedals and gadgets and stuff, you really have to choose what you're going to bring on tour, because every time I go to like back to Europe, or if we do a gig gig in Asia or whatever, anytime it's like flying like that, you don't want to be carrying around all those things, but you want to make it interesting. So it's like you really have to think about that type of thing. I mean, Jesse even bought a specific guitar when we went to Europe a couple of years ago, and
it's kind of a, I don't know if you remember I think it was Steinbrenner, and it was just, so Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, yeah, it was kind of Steinbrenner. Steinbrenner had it kind of had no body and then no headstock.
Yeah, was this a synth guitar? No,
the one that I have?
Yeah.
No, it's just regular
right.
regular 6-string. Yeah. But they made this. I guess if you took the strings off, it would look like a paddle essentially. So there's no body to it whatsoever. It's the most basic parts that you would need to still keep it a guitar. And it's a fairly young company, but it's genuinely the size of a 3/4 length guitar neck, so no headstock. It's semi hollow in that, or it's die cut so that the strings wind around and the tuning pegs are in the body.
Yep.
And I can put it in overhead luggage. Like I never had to fear. You'd hear all those stories when TSA is just you're sitting on the plane and they're just throwing your guitars, and you're like, no.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So I think there was a rule or a law put in place where after that started to happen, some of the bigger guys with money were like, something needs to change. Some of these bigger bands, and they say that you could bring on a full scale guitar, but if the airlines are so terrible, why do you want to risk bringing your favorite guitar and hoping that it gets on? And you're like, can you just put this in the closet? Because they might go, screw you. You're like, we're not going to do that. You got to go check.
Look, there's only one solution that works there, which is what Iron Maiden did, which is learn to fly an aeroplane.
Well,
we
have to get there.
That's awesome.
Get your own Boeing.
He's
take
amazing.
The whole of the bottom of the
say.
Boeing out, put all of your kit in it, your crew and your band at the top, and fly around the world. That's the only thing that works.
I don't understand.
I gotta say, Bruce is amazing. Yeah, Bruce is amazing. I mean, that guy. I mean, he's got PhDs. He flies planes. He's in this great metal band. I'm a big metal fan too. I mean, I grew up on that stuff, so I admire people like that. It's really cool.
I think I'm right in saying he even owns a company that train people how to fly planes as well now.
Oh, wow. Maybe I would think so. Yeah, it was funny. Like one time, I can't remember what gig it was, but we're going through the TSA security, and I tried to bring all my modules with me, and then I just checked the cables and stuff like that, just because I want to have them. So I had an SP404 sampler, and it's this little box with these buttons and stuff. And most of those people don't get like music equipment, although sometimes you do get people. And this is one time you got somebody who understood it. And so I'm going through, and this really stern man comes up to me, and he's like, "Can you open your bag?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then he takes out the 404, and he goes, "What's this?" And I'm trying to explain to him what a sampler is, and he looks at me and he goes, "No," he is. "I know exactly what it is. Why would you use a sampler when you could use a laptop these days?"
You thought he was going to say there's Semtex in there somewhere.
Exactly. You have to go through the whole rigmarole. It's crazy.
Well, there is that. I mean, I was going to say, actually, I mean, that's the thing with sounds these days. You can VI pretty much anything. So, once you've got a sound, you've recorded it, you've sampled it down, etc. You can use a control keyboard. You can VI it if you want to. It's not as much fun though, And from a live point of view, it's lovely watching people play with all of their toys on stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. What's the best, if you like, sort of electronic toy that you've ever seen anyone use live on stage, either of you?
Wow, the best. Man, I mean, I've seen people use everything, including the kitchen sink, and just nothing but like a fork or something. I mean, literally. I'm more interested these days in electronics and just synthesizers and that kind of thing. But what does the Robin have? Teenage Engineering, I think it is, are these little pocket synthesizers. They're really expensive, but they're these great synths that you can just throw in a laptop bag, and you press pretty much all you need. I know Robin uses it a lot. He's obsessed with them. But yeah, I mean that interests me a lot. I haven't gone there yet. Right now, the newest purchase that I bought was a Roland Boutique synth, the JP08. So it's an old Jupiter.
Yep.
So it's got all the 80 sounds and stuff like that. And I mean, again, one reason why I buy these things is because they're easy to travel with. So, I try to keep the sets that we're doing, because now we're doing sets where we don't improvise as much, but I try to keep in mind that maybe we'll be traveling with that, hopefully, knock wood, someday we'll be doing a big tour with all this world collapsing and stuff. But yeah, the smaller the better these days, like that. I mean, I also have one of the new Rolands here, but it's a studio synth. It's one of those giant, like, spaceship kind of looking ones. But that's just for kind of online stuff, or if I'm doing something in the studio.
Well, I was going to say, do you remember back in the day? I mean, you guys are probably not old enough, but do you remember Jean-Michel Jarre and his electric harp?
Oh,
His
yes,
laser
of
harp?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. He played here like 5 years ago. Unfortunately, I missed him. But oh yeah, he's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
I had a very rich friend at school. He made one of those for his design project.
Made
Wow.
one of those.
Made
Wow.
a laser harp for his design project. Cost him 30 grand.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It was an amazing thing to see.
I just for the first time took apart my mixer to clean it last night, and I thought that was amazing. I mean, that's not the same thing. I get so weird about that stuff, electronics. It's just like getting under the hood. I like pressing buttons and stuff. But wow,
I'll tell you
that's
one of my favorites. I'll tell you one of my
amazing.
favorites, guys, and you can go and check this out afterwards. I am a big fan, and never make any bones of it, of Marillion.
Oh,
Steve
okay.
Hogarth has a MIDI cricket bat.
Oh,
Oh, a
cool.
MIDI cricket bat. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's different.
the cricket bat has got hollowed out, and it's got these MIDI pads in it. And he brings his cricket bat on stage and plays
That's
his cricket
fantastic.
bat.
There's a guy in Brooklyn, Ken something. He has a whole collection of things like that, which he's made over the years. And you go to his shows, and he takes, for 3 to 5 minutes, he'll play like a tennis racket, and he'll play like a piece of wood, and he's got them all kind of. I mean, they're properly tuned instruments that sound like string instruments and things like that. They're not just like actually miking up some sort of tennis racket, which would be kind of interesting. But like, he actually makes them with the bodies of these things and has the sound like that. So it's very similar to what you're saying, but a cricket bat. Now that's interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's great because if you get anyone get up on stage that shouldn't be there, you can hit them with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you need that with some of the fans these days, right?
And it doesn't matter if the airline throw it as well.
Exactly. Oh, and another airline story that came to mind. So this was a tour we were doing in Lithuania, and I believe we were in the Kaunas airport. And so that was one of the tours that I brought the fishing rod and reel with me. And at that point, I kind of have everything down to a science. I kind of know what they're going to say, whatever. And so I'm going through, and I took out all my modules and explained what it was, and they were fine with that. And then I had my my Boss bag, and that was empty, and I put it through the scanner, and there's this older Lithuanian lady there, and she goes, "What's in here?" And I said, "Well, I don't think anything, because I took out the keyboard." She's like, "No, there's something long." And I was like, "Oh, the fishing rod." And she's like, "Fishing rod?" She's like, "Wait, you shouldn't have this." And I was like, "Well, yeah." She's like, "Why do you need this on the plane?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't. I forgot it." I was like, "I play music with it." She's like, "What? Music? What are you talking about?" And I said, "Yeah, I hook it up to this," and I'm explaining it to her. And she's like, "I don't care about that. I don't know why you would do that. I'm afraid you take it out and you go boom, 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 and you hit somebody on the head." And so she actually let me take it on the plane, and she was like, whatever. I guess she just realized. But yeah, explaining it to her was just
Well,
amazing.
that's the thing. I think in the middle of you explaining that, there, she probably thought, "I'm lost."
She was lost, all right.
I've gone. This guy's nuts, right? He's playing. He's telling me he plays. I'm just letting him on.
Yeah. That would be a great, like, just blog, having experimental musicians talk about their security stories in airports, just like what they take. I know somebody. They all have some. I know it. They've got to. You know.
My
I
favorite is the concept of going over to Europe and having to just lie and say, "Oh, this is just for we're going to be sitting around a campfire with all these instruments." like we're not there to play shows whatsoever.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, I've recently started a new Discord server, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you and a load of other experimental music guys as well, and we'll just set up a thread,
Okay.
and we'll discuss that, because I think
That's
that could be really interesting.
Yeah.
No,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah, no, we should do that. So, one of the things I always ask people in this is how they got started in music, what really first influenced them. But obviously, what I'm going to ask you is what really first influenced you to not music?
Well, I mean, I tell this story all the time, so I'll try to keep it short. But you know, when I was into punk and metal, and then I got into kind of like goth and then industrial music, and then I discovered things like Zovia France and Throbbing Gristle and etc. And then learned how they did that. So I went out and I bought a Tascam 4-track, and I put it in my basement. I got like a keyboard, I got I think it was a Boss drum machine, and then I got a couple of microphones. So then I would do like these 4-track kind of recordings, you know, very abstract, and it was all influenced basically by bands like that. One especially was Soviet France, and so I mean that's kind of how that started, you know. And it just blew my mind that you could just do that. You know, you couldn't just have your, you know, you didn't have to have the 4-chord kind of thing and a chorus and all that kind of thing, like a song structure. I mean, you know, even punk's got song structures, but like this was so radical. It was just like, wow, you know, you can kind of do this sort of thing. So I got more and more into it, you know, and then that, you know, that's kind of how that kind of thing started. And then I played with a band called Magic Zerio, and that was like kind of similar to what we're doing now, right? It's like half song structure, half improvisation. Um, for like 3 or 4 or 5 albums, I can't remember. But and then you know, deep into it, then, you know, I started playing with other people, you know, John Worthley, who is not here with us in this meeting, but he kind of started Pas Musique, and then there was Amber Bryan for a while, and Will Connor, and then Jesse got into it a little later. Oh, Mike Durick. I mean, he was in it around the time. John Worthley. We used to do trios for a while before he became like an official member of the band. But yeah, I mean that's kind of it. It has to all go back to like Throbbing Gristle, Zovia France, SPK, all that kind of like 80s kind of stuff. And now, I mean, and I've met Robin from Zovia France, and we're really good friends, and we do stuff together. And that's the more abstract stuff that I do these days on the side with Robin. And we have a project called Old Castle, which is another with Sean Sonder. So yeah, so that's kind of it. And well, Jesse, I guess through me.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask this question to Jesse then, which is so from time to time when you're producing what you produce, does anything come out and you go, do you know what, that's a beautiful piece of music, that's a lovely song, in fact that actually could be like pop or whatever, and we just got to discard that because we can't do that.
You know, it's actually really funny that you say that, because we had a really funny experience that we were joking about when we played this place in Massachusetts called the Firehouse, and we were the only band that wasn't really harsh noise. And afterwards, I was joking with Robert. It was like we were the pop of the experimental scene, and they wanted nothing. Like they could not care. I mean, they were cool, but they wanted to hear the harshest grinding of tape noises.
Yeah,
they didn't want to hear any structures of anything. But So
I can imagine what that was like as well.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject for a minute, but I actually had when I did DJing for a little while, and actually I did a lot of club DJing.
Okay.
But very occasionally, just for a bit of money, I used to do just events. Yeah.
Sure.
And I got asked to do this wedding.
Yeah.
And this couple said to me, come along, bring your decks and everything else. And, we want it really hardcore.
Yeah.
But I was thinking it's a wedding, right?
Yeah.
And then I get there and I'm setting up, and I took my decks and I took all my vinyl, but I also took CDs and stuff as well, and all the cheese and everything else. Because I'm thinking, and like there's some old people coming into the room and whatever. I'm thinking, come on, and some young and some youngsters, and I'm thinking, they're going to want a bit of pop, and they're going to want to, And anyway, so the bride and groom arrive, and I've got like some just general stuff going on, and they go, can you turn this off? Right, we told you we want hardcore. They strip off, right? Like literally strip off down to their underwear, right? And then I'm playing hardcore rave, and like they're going, whoa, they're really going for it, and they're like, come on everyone, you're either into it or you go home. I'm like, okay.
Did everybody else get into it?
Well, some people got into it, and some people just stood there and went.
That must have been mortifying.
Wow. Yeah.
But I can understand the experience, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing, Jesse, though, the second time we went back, because the guy who runs it, Steve Davis, he's a super sweet guy.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
You listen to his music, and it's totally harsh and crazy, and he keeps inviting us back, which is great, I think because Steve just loves our music, and he doesn't care. He's just like, but he also invites a couple of ambient acts as well, and they play.
Yeah.
But the second time Michael and I went up there to do it,
that's right.
It was, I don't know, they were a lot more into it this time, so I don't know. And it was like a lot of the same people there because it's a small scene, but
it seeped through.
Yeah, maybe it did. Maybe they were like, okay, now we kind of get it,
And you don't necessarily, I feel like there's a level of like, sometimes I'm like, I'm not. Sometimes it's like selfish. You're like the audience isn't into it. I don't care. But it's just a funny. It's just a funny thing to see in a world that you go.
Yeah,
I can't believe there's that in this world of experimental music, where someone could be like, someone could be like, I don't know, man. It's a little too soft.
Listen, as long as it's not like a Blues Brothers Rawhide experience,
right?
Oh yeah.
Where you're behind some cage doing Rawhide 5 times.
Oh man, we not Pas Musique, but when I went on tour with like Oldcastle the last time, which is Robin Story from Rapunzel de France and Sean Sonder, we played a place in Nashville, and that was a cowboy bar, and it was ancient cowboy bar, and you walked in and you were like, are you kidding me? I mean, it had everything but the chicken wire. And we walked into the first part of the music, which was all country music, right? And these guys with big cowboy hats at the bar, and I was like, asked the guy, I was like, listen, are we in the right place? He's like, oh yeah, Chris will be here in a few hours, sit down with the guys and have a beer. So there we were, kind of really not a part of this whole scene, but we sat down and with these guys, had a beer and stuff, and they were great. It was a great time. But you look around and
you were just trying to work out how people were going to line dance to what you do. Yeah.
Exactly. But you walk into these places and you kind of have your ideas, and it's never, don't judge a book by its cover.
Milwaukee was that way.
Yeah.
Milwaukee was, but Milwaukee also turned out to be a really good gig.
No. What I'm saying is,
your first impression.
It was we were paired up with for most of the trip. We're paired up with people that you go, okay, like I get why those bands are paired together. But then we got paired with like an indie band that was really popular in this town, and it just seemed like it was it just seemed like kind of a meathead jock bar. And I was like, man, we are going to be the sore
He
thumb
was having
sticking
a
out
panic
here.
attack. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
and I was just like, and it's not about embarrassment, but you're just like, you kind of don't want to deal with that kind of aggression from people if they start getting drunk. You don't know what they're going to do, you know what I mean? And man, to my surprise, they loved it. I couldn't believe it. That was the biggest surprising thing to me. It was so strange.
That was probably one of the best
Yeah,
gigs.
it was the most packed too.
Do you think that is part and parcel of the modern age in terms of listening to music, that people are now able to just access so much and so easily, and different types of music, that actually there is a little bit more acceptance?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, go on, Jess.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think it's also certainly the access, and then I think it's also that if you listen to a lot of, like, there really aren't genres any longer. Like, it's hard to classify anything, and you hear a lot of experimental music in hip hop now. Like, it's not a weird, like, to me when I was in college, experimental hip hop to me would have been like Massive Attack. You know what I mean? Like, using those elements of stuff like, or Tricky or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But now it's, and I don't know if people necessarily know what's happening in the songs or care, but I think it's just kind of ingrained in their brain. So I don't know. I feel like you just kind of, maybe everyone's just kind of seeking out all music at this point. Like, I don't know if one person's like, I need to stick in this genre any longer.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's funny. You think Massive Attack and stuff was like more experimental hip hop or whatever, but then you think a good buddy of ours, Black Saturn. I think that's like way experimental hip hop.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is great. Look him up. Yeah, Black Saturn, Ned Jackson. He's a great guy. But yeah, I think there's a lot more crossover. You know, and with us it's interesting because it's kind of, we've always been in between a lot of these things, so I think that's why we're always on these eclectic bills. And I put together shows here in New York. I used to be at a place called Goodbye Blue Monday. Now it's at Spectrum, but I love eclectic nights. I love it because I personally don't want to sit there and listen to like 5 hours of the same genre, really, because I like it mixed up, 5 hours of ambient or harsh noise or whatever. But like, take one of those and put them on a bill and switch it up. I mean, you're not going to put some really poppy thing on, although I've actually done that as well. We've been on a pop bill. What was it in Shreveport? That was well received. It was well received.
Yeah. I think it's one of the reasons why commercial radio stations struggle so much these days. It's just so formulaic that nobody wants to listen to it. You just want to, and that's the thing. You've got a box in the corner. You can just call up different stuff as the day goes on. So why would you bother with listening to this circle of stuff that's all the same?
Yeah,
exactly.
Daft. Guys, let's talk about the because otherwise we'll get in big trouble. Let's talk about the latest project, the songs that you've got out now. What prompted that? But what started that?
Well, we're constantly working on new material, and I think we played a lot of those songs, or started to play those songs in different ways in the European tour. I think it was 2019 or 2018.
No, 17.
But they've developed 17. Okay, yeah. So that we started there. So we've finally like nailed them down like last year, and throughout the pandemic, we've been working on more stuff, but and that's all online, which is another conversation, which is jamming online, which is fantastic. So amateur radio came from that, and came from the studio sessions after we went on tour. We recorded everything. Jesse did all of the artwork for the album. He's a great designer too, and
Thank you.
you know, those songs, they just kind of develop by just hanging out and playing them, you know, and then you switch ideas up, and then eventually they become something, you know, they develop, you know, and then the titles, you know, you're hanging out having a beer and you kind of make up these silly
Well, I was
song
going to ask about
titles,
the
and you're like,
titles
oh
because I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like
that sounds
ancient
good.
Scottish legend. I mean, have you ever met an ancient Scottish legend, or you know,
Well, you know,
what prompted that? Or do you just think
that
you
was
just
from
met an old
John.
John, right?
John Worthley and the band, who's kind of like an ancient Scottish legend in a way. He, you know, he's a genius. He really is. He's so quiet sometimes, but like he'll come up with these like ideas like artistically or like song titles, and you're like, yeah, well, that sounds great, man. You know, so he, you know, he came up with that one. Don Cheadle superhero. It's Jesse and I like Don Cheadle, so we, I think that came from us.
Yeah.
You know, that one. That's what they said. You know, that's kind of that stupid joke. That's what she said, kind of thing. So we kind of said, well, let's change it to like they or, you know, them kind of thing. Just kind of change how language changes. Um, yeah, ancient.
Do you ever
What else
find
is
that
on there?
people having listened to your music uh, actually then come up to you and say, well, do you know what, I heard this in this, or you know, I think this sounds like that, you know, they take something from the title and they go, yeah, do you know, is this about this? And you think, well, I have no idea whether it's about that
Well,
or
a
not.
lot
But
of times, yeah, you
yeah,
know, art is funny like that, right? You know, I'm a painter as well, and you know, you do whatever art you do, you know, and you have this idea or maybe no idea, you're just doing it for fun, and then okay, you have to title it something, you title it whatever, and then people read into it, you know, and then sometimes their interpretation is, you're like, wow, you know, maybe that is it. You
but I'm
know,
just thinking
maybe it was
this
subconscious.
when we put this on the Discord discussion, this could be another thread, which is you know, the different interpretations of each song.
Absolutely, absolutely, but
You know,
that's the
people
fun
can
of
just
it,
offer it
right?
up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, amateur radio was kind of along that was, I thought that was a great concept, because of what this stuff kind of is, you know. You
Our
know, I
songs
love.
also we name them almost instantaneously.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the fastest moving band in that terms of the music, the songs that we come up with that I've ever been in. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really, and it's
you don't have working titles.
no, and it's not yet that I've seen. Maybe you have in the past, Robert.
Well, you know, it's funny. Some of those were working titles, and they just became it. You know.
Yeah, I like there was a lead singer one time said, you know, they were like, oh, how do you know, what do you sing about? And he was like, I don't know, like sometimes I walk out of my house and I see a flower and that becomes a song. I love that. I was just like, it doesn't have to have insane meaning to it, you know, but um, but there are other times, like if you're thinking of a band name or you know, it's just this labor intensive thing that goes on for weeks and weeks. You're like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And then you're like, well, maybe that's it, but I'm not sure. But I don't know. With our band, it's never seemed to feel that way. And it just feels right to go. That's great. Let's keep
Do you
that.
know what the longest one of those is these days? It's .coms.
Yes, yes. Well,
Yeah,
particularly now that basically they're running out of them.
yeah, exactly. It's people sitting there going, that's taken.
It's so
Damn,
true.
that's
Yeah.
taken. That's taken.
Or Instagram handles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to be number 4. I came up with that first. No, you clearly didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean, actually, that could be again incorporated into the whole thing. You could actually just have a night where you sit there and scramble letters and come up with .coms, and you buy them and then put some tune to it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a neat idea. Yeah.
Isn't that a great idea?
I like that a lot.
Buy it for $1. Put a tune up there that fits that .com. There you go.
Right.
That's it. It's immortalized.
There you go.
And you can do it over and over, and then eventually people have to come to you to try and buy the domains, and you make a lot of money.
Yeah, you'd have to spend a fair bit first. But it could be quite a lot of fun. If anyone else wants to get involved in that, just let us know. we'll just buy some .coms together as a group.
There you go.
You know, these guys will make some music, pop it up there.
But I think it should be one song per domain.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep putting out thousands of domains.
Yeah. I love that as an idea.
We made more money off of domain names than we did off our albums.
Well, and someone could just sponsor you, right? Yeah. They could just pay for the domains and put it up there. But and then you get a share of whatever comes back from it.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. There's a new project right there.
It's a great way of thinking about music. I love actually the playfulness of how people can put music out nowadays.
100%.
Yeah.
The band OK Go, they're I guess you'd call them a pop band. I don't know too much about them other than the hits that they put out, because they always tried to continually innovate. And actually I have two different stories. One is about Wu-Tang Clan as well. But OK Go at one point, one of their videos that they released was they went up in a 0G plane. So they did a video that way. And I was like, God damn, that's so interesting. So I think they went to Russia to use whatever the cosmonaut training plane is. And then the next one was, I don't know what you call it, but when it's a chain of effects and they film it over a number of hours and then they condense it to 3-4 minutes and it's really fast or whatever. So like the paint exploding in the guy's face.
Yeah.
And then the next iteration, and I don't know how to explain this, but the album was imprinted on DNA. Now, I don't know how you physically get that, but along those same lines, when Wu-Tang put out their box set that they had specially handcrafted, I love the idea that couldn't be listened to for like 140 years. That was so fascinating to me. You put out the music and you can't listen to it yet. And same with like the DNA. Like, how does that translate? What do you do with it? You know what I mean? I thought that was amazing. Like that kind of stuff. I'm just always like, you know, how weird can you get? Like I was telling Robert, I would love to release like a box set of 8 tracks. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You just can't, and someone out there has to make them. I know it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Well, someone's got one, yeah?
I've seen some more contemporary bands actually coming out with 8 tracks. Like I think I saw Ghost, the metal band.
That's right. They did do that.
Yeah. But good luck finding a good 8-track player.
Yeah.
Guys, I still think buy the domain and stick it up there, and it's just a random domain.
I like that idea.
I think it's a good idea.
I think that could go. Right? I think we'll do it.
Next collaboration.
It really is in the ether, and it never has any other attachment to anything else other than that one song, and it's
no one can. You know, there's no commercial link to it. People can link to it if they want to, but there's no commercial link to it at all.
It wouldn't come up in the top 10 searches.
Well, it might.
Exactly.
But you never know. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, by the time
you don't know.
Yeah.
Because people might just find the concept of it fun.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the whole idea. Yeah.
We just made someone $1 million.
Us. Don't forget us. Guys, it's been an absolute blast talking to you this afternoon about all things music.
Same
as well.
Yeah. So at the moment, in a more traditional, conventional way, which we don't like to talk about, how can people get hold of your music?
Well, you could do the Bandcamp thing, look up Pas Musique. You could do Apple, I think, with some on there, Amazon, or you could just, go to pasmusique.net and you could find everything, a link on there.
That's
we're on Instagram, all that stuff. We don't want to
So-
be on it, but you have to.
No, so let's do that at the moment, but watch out in the future for just random domains just appearing everywhere.
Yes,
With,
exactly.
with bits of music on it, and you'll know
Yeah.
who it is.
Yeah.
On
Nice.
random thumb drives on your doorstep, and then you
Yeah.
plug it in, and it takes.
Oh,
you to the domain.
that's really good as well.
There you go.
But you just randomly put them places.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
I like that as an idea.
I've done that with some releases too.
Have you?
I've sent them to random people, and I put them in people's mailboxes, just random mailboxes, or on in the street or in a restaurant, and just curious. Maybe That's the whole idea about this music, is you want to like challenge people's ideas. You want to introduce.
Somebody opens a
new
box
things
of
to them.
Krispy Kreme
I'm
donuts,
always
and there's a
happier when
USB drive with some music on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you have to say to yourself, is the government after me, or is there something cool on this?
do I dare
It's
plug it in?
who's opening up the Krispy Kremes.
Yeah. Do I dare plug this in? Oh dear, Robert, Jesse, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Great to meet you, Graham.
Yeah,
Thank you
great
so
to meet
much.
you too. Bye for now.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.